Hi everyone, Velvet here today, and I have some stories for you. Before we get started, can you please do me a huge favor and like, comment, and subscribe? It'll really help the channel out. Let's get started. Our first story comes from Boring Dragonfly 9153. Am I the beehole for laughing at my sister-in-law and telling her I have zero desire to raise her child? Obligatory throwaway. All names changed for anonymity. I, a 44-year-old female, am married to my hubby, Jimmy, a 48-year-old male, for over 2 decades. My parents died suddenly in a car accident 10 years ago. I have a younger sister, Abigail, 39-year-old female, with Down syndrome, and Jimmy and I are guardians. Abigail is my sweet angel on earth. When my parents passed, I was working mother of 3 young kids, helping to build our family business with my husband. At first, Abigail lived with us full time. Jimmy has always been at my side with her care and loves her to bits. After a few months, we realized that my sister needed more attention than we could give her. There was just not enough time in the day. We discussed what would be best for her, and decided to put her in a private adult home for special needs people. It's very costly. Over $10K a month, and comes from our own finances. The facility does all sorts of activities and field trips. She loves her home, her friends, and the special days the facility hosts. We are always stopping by to either visit, sign her out on holidays to spend time with family, keep her overnight for special sleepovers with my kids, and take her on every vacation with us. We never go more than 24 hours with one of us making sure she's okay. Now, on to the issue. I have a sister-in-law, Jenny, a 42-year-old female who's had her first child after years of trying. She's become the typical first-time mom who believes she invented motherhood and is openly opinionated about things she believes other parents fall short on. I mostly ignore her, and so does Jimmy. We hosted a barbecue at my house for Labor Day with my father-in-law, mother-in-law, Jenny, her husband, baby, and my kids. Abigail had planned a trip to the zoo and asked if she could go. Of course, we said okay. While we were eating, Jenny turned to me and asked me where Abigail was. Her tone was more accusatory than questioning. I simply didn't want to get into it with Jenny. So, I said Abigail wanted to stay at the home. Jenny then turned to her hubby and said,
"See, this is why it won't ever happen."
My mother-in-law asked Jenny what she was talking about. Jenny all snarkily said to the whole table,
"We did our wills last week, and we knew these two wouldn't be suitable as guardians of our baby if something happened to us. They tossed her sister into a home, rather than be a real family to her. I won't let that happen to my child."
I didn't let it show, but I was extremely hurt she could say this. Instead of yelling, I laughed at her and said, well, that's great news, since I have zero desire to raise your kid. More was said, but that was the gist of it. Jenny left with her family calling me nasty swear words as she walked out. I might have said a few swear words myself right back at her. It's been over a month now, and Jimmy is still getting nasty texts from Jenny demanding I apologize. My mother-in-law knows she overstepped with her comment, but is asking me to be the bigger person and say sorry to keep the peace. I refuse. Am I the beehole? Hi, OP. You are not the beehole in this one. I think you did the right thing in putting Abigail in that assisted living care. I'm not sure what the name is. Because you were smart enough to know, hey, you don't have the time and resources to take care of a human being like this right now. And it sounds like she's loving it in there. Also, stand your ground, do not apologize, and do not fall for that be the bigger man, take the high road nonsense. You were not in the wrong in this one. The person who was in the wrong, your sister-in-law, needs to apologize to you. She was way out of line, and if you apologize to her, that will just affirm to her that she is correct and she can keep doing this sort of thing to you. Do not apologize. Even if you have to go no contact for the rest of your lives, do not apologize. Our next story comes from SpendOK2589. Am I the beehole for telling my sister-in-law she should cancel the baby shower she was planning for me? And that we would prefer not to have one than have one where she doesn't respect my boundaries? My husband and I are experiencing our first baby in a few months, and my sister-in-law offered to throw us a baby shower. I was really in love with the idea and accepted. Then my mother-in-law got involved. But my sister-in-law disrespected the one clear boundary regarding the baby shower that I had and refuses to let it go despite being told not by only me, but my mother-in-law and my husband as well. She insisted that my half-siblings should be invited as well as finding bio-family from both sides and inviting them. This is an absolutely never thing for me. I did not invite him to my wedding, and I've not seen or spoken to them in several years. But she's going extremely hard on the "but family" argument. Background: I'm an affair baby. My father cheated on his wife, and I was the result. His wife kicked him to the curb, and he and my mother stayed together. I was born, and they did not take care of me, and when I was 3, I was removed from their care by CPS. None of my biological family wanted me. My mother's family were supposedly good Christians, who couldn't stand the thought of an illegitimate affair baby, and my father's wife were not in the position to take care of such a young child. My father's ex-wife ended up taking me in. I'm not sure why. The fact she was paid to take care of me was possibly the reason. What I do know is I was not loved. My half-siblings ranged from 11 to 17 at the time, and they all hated me. It was made perfectly clear from a young age that I was to never call her mom, and I was never to call them my brothers and sisters. My father's family were still in their lives and knew how I was treated, and they wouldn't ever report it to my caseworker. I mentioned it once or twice, but I think she found it easier to dismiss a kid's words. My childhood was miserable, and I was seen as a burden and as someone who should never have been born. My half-siblings continued visiting their mom as adults and just made it clear as they couldn't stand me, and were disgusted by my presence. I just left when I was 16, and no one ever reported me missing or came looking for me. My sister-in-law knows my background, and she knows I would never want them in my life again. But she pushes and continues to do so, and I spoke to my mother-in-law and she tried to take over more, but sister-in-law insisted that she offered first. When she brought it up again, I told her to cancel the shower. And I would rather have no shower than one thrown by her when she can't respect my boundaries. Mother-in-law stepped in and is now hosting one, but sister-in-law is pissed because she had spent a while planning and had paid for some stuff already. Mother-in-law said she'd give her the money back, but still, sister-in-law said I was in the wrong, and I should appreciate her for wanting to give me back my family. I told her I had no family until I met them, and she needs to accept that my blood relatives do not want me and I do not want them. I know she keeps telling my husband how wrong I was, and he keeps defending me, but I feel bad about the tension now. Am I the beehole? Hi, OP, you are not the beehole. And you know what line infuriates me? The "I'm giving you back your family" line. What the hell is that? That's not your family. That's ghouls. Those people are ghouls. They treated you horribly and didn't care about you. That's not family. And I can relate. I have family that I have no interest in ever seeing again. And your sister-in-law is being very arrogant, thinking she knows better than you about your whole family situation. I think your husband really needs to sit her down and tell her this is never going to be a thing and drop it. Our final story comes from Intelligent Grocery 93. Am I the beehole for telling my sister-in-law that she's overweight and she can deal with the truth? I really dislike this woman, so I'm coming here to see if I should apologize. My brother got married a few years ago to Shelly. She's the type of person that will say something rude, and then when someone points it out, tells everyone it's true, so what's the harm? My mother despised her and actually opts out of most events just to avoid her. I moved back home about a year ago, and at the time I thought people were just being rude to her or overblowing the things she says. I was wrong. My first proper introduction to her, she told me my outfit looked bad on me and it wasn't hiding my stomach. I gave a present to a birthday party and she tells me I'm cheap. I got a bubble gun for a 5-year-old. He loved it. This goes on and on. I talked to my brother and he told me she's autistic and she can't help it. Then I talked to her and I told her I won't put up with her being rude. Now, it's my son's third birthday, and I invited the family. I wouldn't have invited her, but I don't want to cause waves. She made a comment about my house decor. I told her it was rude and to knock it off. I lost it and gave my son a piece of cake. She made the comment that I shouldn't give him any slices because he looks fat. I told her to apologize and she told me it was the truth. I told her she was overweight and that if she took care of herself, she wouldn't be fat. And that this was the truth. And she is rotten on the inside and her looks are just as bad. She ended up crying and leaving. My brother is pissed and I was called some fun names. Everyone's torn if I should just apologize or not. Hey OP, you're not the beehole, and I'll help you out with that last part. Don't apologize. You don't get to dish it and then you can't take it. And I really don't like how she's using being autistic as a shield to be able to be a rude person. Being autistic doesn't mean you're stupid. Autistic people know when and when not to use comments like that in certain situations. And your brother sounds like he's enabling her bad behavior. Eventually, she's going to mess around and find out and catch some hands. And then let's see what happens to her then. Alright everybody, thank you so much for making it to the end with me. Can you please do me a favor and do what I said in the beginning and like, comment, and subscribe? It will really help the channel out. Velvet out.